People outside the gaming space like to blame societal problems on video games, saying they're the cause to violence, poor mental health, and gambling addictions. I'm going to look at the real problem with games. This time, we're looking at the problem inside communities. Make sure you check out my other videos in this series, linked in the description. Video games have become one of the most popular forms of entertainment, with people banding together online to form communities around their favourite games, genres, and more. People from all over the world can share their experiences on subreddits, or join forces to play together online in a Discord server. Communities are a great thing to have, as they can give you a sense of camaraderie and belonging. You can find lifelong friends within them, and they can band together and support social causes, as well as promote and support small projects, bringing indie games to life. The most direct form of communities are the ones you find within games, namely online multiplayer games. By interacting with other people, you're participating within the community, whether you realise it or not. Connecting with other players in games can range from leaving a message or item in the world for other people, such as in Souls games or Death Stranding. Or, it could be a lot more direct, where you're playing within a team of other players, with a common aim of destroying the enemy. These things can all bring people together. However, there are a select few that decide to abuse these systems. Before we get into it, like this video and let me know what you think the worst gaming community is in the comments. My first experience of negative player behaviour was when I was but a young, innocent child on a public Minecraft server building a house. There I am, coming home from school, looking forward to adding a fountain to my garden. I log onto Minecraft, click on the server, and then I see it. Random blocks of wool scattered all over my plot. I was devastated. Griefing, toxicity, and other general bad behaviour is on another level in the current day, with death threats being normalised. It's honestly more of a surprise now when you find an online game that doesn't have people acting like toddlers. In fact, toddlers are probably better behaved than players these days. One example of this is poor sportsmanship. PvP games are filled with toxicity, with players throwing around insults in griefing matches. Purposefully killing teammates, stealing farm, running it down, and in general just ruining the game for everyone else involved. You don't see footballers sitting in the middle of the pitch in defiance because their teammate didn't pass them the ball. So why do gamers do it? The answer is probably, there's little to no consequence to it. Something that has improved within recent years is how harmful language is dealt with. People making threats or being homophobic, racist, and whatever else is far too common, and removing disrespectful behaviour is a key part of successful moderation from the companies in charge. It's always telling when someone resorts to griefing or toxic language, as it only reflects on the character of that individual. Maybe if you've had a bad day at work, go talk to someone about it rather than shouting at someone online, hoping their family will die. Communities come together outside of games, whether that's on Reddit, Twitter, or Discord. Often you get people asking for help, and it's sadly too common for someone to respond by saying, skill issue, or get good, rather than offering genuine advice. Gatekeeping within communities is something we see more of now, where people will consciously try and exclude others from being a part of groups, or knowing certain information regarding a game. This culture has developed because some people feel like they're better than others, perhaps due to them being a high rank in competitive modes, or because they've played a genre since its creation. I think the people that gatekeep must feel a threat from others, as if they think they hold some sort of seniority position within the community. You also don't need to play Dark Souls or be Grandmaster in Overwatch to be considered a gamer. Anyone who says that you have to prove yourself to become a gamer needs to check themselves. That's the beauty of games. There's such a range that nearly everyone can find something for them, whether it's Call of Duty or Candy Crush. Within online culture, people struggle to realise that their opinion isn't fact. It's an opinion. This translates to games when you see players discussing the best practices for a particular game in forums, or even just chatting about it in a Discord. Someone might say how they really enjoyed using a certain weapon, and will instantly get shut down because that weapon is C tier, and they should have used a weapon with better damage. I'm not disregarding that certain items and mechanics within games are stronger than others, but if someone is having fun with something, then who are we to tell them otherwise? Not everyone is a sweaty try-hard player. Some people just play to have fun. And if you vibe with a C-tier weapon, then absolutely use it. Not everything needs to be optimized, especially not on a first playthrough of a game. The games industry is one of those where people flock to big names, regardless of the quality of the product being sold. Gamers are constantly complaining online how the quality of AAA games have declined. The term AAA now only means a big team and a big budget, whereas in the past it meant you'd get a great game as well. This is in part due to how companies are run, which we'll get to in a later video, but also our consumer behaviour. If you, as a player, want better games made available to you, then you need to stop buying a game just because it's from Activision or EA. If a company sees that they can make a bad product and profit from it, then they'll keep making those Redfalls. Part of the issue of low-quality games in the modern era is how people defend them. Some people defended Starfield's animations and fetch quests because they were realistic. It's fine if you enjoy the game, but surely we shouldn't be defending its quest system when other games have made a much more dynamic questing system, such as The Witcher 3. Plus, the last time I checked, we generally play games because they are unrealistic. The average person doesn't slay monsters as their full-time job, or own islands in the tropics, or live on a planet millions of light years away from Earth. We use games as an escape, and some people need to remember that. People on social media really do it to themselves, as shown last year with Lords of the Fallen. It got a lot of criticism for being poorly optimized and very buggy. However, from the stats the developers could see on Steam, a large proportion of players were playing the game on PCs below the minimum required specs. I'm not defending the game, but players need to use their brains as well. Some players really do think they know everything best, and act as though they can do a better job than the game developers themselves. We've all had moments in games where we've thought, how did this make it in? But we never really know the full story behind it. Plus, it's not like we don't make mistakes in our own day jobs. I'm not defending poor business practices, but we also shouldn't pretend like we understand how to run all departments of a AAA studio. There's a substantial number of reasons that something might have made it into a game, such as time and budget restrictions, or promises made to stakeholders. And no, John wasn't the one who made those promises, so stop flaming him on Twitter, when he's probably been working overtime just for you to be able to play the damn game in the first place. Being rude and disrespectful to developers on social media is probably one of the most counterproductive things we can do as players. These developers care so much about the game they're making and the players involved that they've taken to social platforms to open a two-way line of communication. If you're going to use that to be malicious and spiteful, then why do you think you're getting bad games? If your boss is awful to work under, and your customers are harassing you every day, then you're probably going to end up hating your job. Your average person online throws out ideas, thinking they can do better than the people hired at studios. They have no artistic skill, no game design experience, and have certainly never worked within the games industry, so it's kind of crazy that they believe they're more qualified. It also shows how a lot of people are unaware of internal issues within games companies. Let's go back and use Starfield's slow and time-consuming animations as an example. If the goal was to make fun and fluid gameplay, then clearly they failed on this, and this is what most players expect. However, if the goal was to extend gameplay elements to increase user game time, then this would have been a success. These animations are in the game to make statistics look better to stockholders, and before we start the hate train on the devs, these goals come from higher-ups in the company. Find a way to increase player time, and if you don't do it, we'll find someone else who will. The way these larger companies are working at the moment is a bit questionable. Communities have become integral to game studios' marketing strategies, not only to promote an upcoming game, but to retain players after its release. Gaming has always been inherently more online compared to other industries, with gamers coming together to discuss all things games, share gameplay videos, and play online games. With online games being ahead of social media platforms, perhaps the industry is ahead of its time in terms of how it deals with its customer base. Maybe gaming companies have done it to themselves. By having community managers, the consumer has been given more power. Every game is a product, and you either like that product or you don't. You either buy a product or you don't. It's that simple. Not everything is made for you. I enjoy psychological thrillers, but I thought Alan Wake 1 was, really not good. Great, the game wasn't for me. I didn't flock to Twitter to write to Sam Lake, listing the reasons why I thought it was bad, and how he should make a game for me instead next time. Community moderation is something that has gotten slack, with online multiplayer games being the worst for this. Instead of laying down the rules in the beginning, companies have let bad behaviour go on for too long, and don't know how to deal with it further down the line. I think part of the reason moderation is so lax is because they rely on these toxic players to make in-game purchases. When a good percentage of your players that spend money in the game are toxic, banning them isn't a viable option to stockholders. Not banning these players in the beginning just leads to them antagonizing more people, increasing harmful behavior. We've all had those games where someone is hell-bent on ruining the game for everyone else. And honestly, it can be hard not to call them out on it, especially when we've all been so desensitized to different insults. Communities can be very hit or miss at the moment, with some welcoming new players with open arms and others trying to gatekeep the fun. The people being toxic clearly have something else going on in their lives. Or maybe they're maidenless. But either way, it's a good idea to just ignore them, or mute them for your own mental sanity. There are a lot of good people within games communities, and although it might take a moment to find them, you should absolutely not let the immaturity of some people affect your positive experience. The more we start setting a better example ourselves, the more people will follow. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so you don't miss a video in this series, and I'll see you next time.